Hey guys, I'm excited for you to tune into this podcast today where we have my client, Lauren M. Scott to be exact. She's the president of the Foundation for Fresh Produce. And her team have been an incredible group of people to work with. Here's what I want you to hear today from her. Something she got early, and she describes the moment of when she kind of had this aha moment. But so often in fundraising, we are go, 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 urgent, urgent, deadline driven. And it's causing us to settle for small gifts, or it's causing us just to settle for what gift we think a donor would give in the moment. I want you to hear how she's really embraced that kind of tortoise approach to fundraising and has really honed those relational skills, which were in her already as a marketer. But really that slow, methodical moves management to a donor's best gift. And so she is having success landing 5, 6, and 7-figure gifts with this methodology. And I just want you to be inspired by her today. She's an incredible leader. And I get excited to see when she's on my calendar during the day. So enjoy. Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So glad we're having a conversation here. Well, I feel like I need to ask you, as I do honestly on most of these episodes, just to tell, like, how in the heck did you end up being, I'll say, incredible at fundraising as somebody who, is a marketer and a brand person for frankly some large corporations and in this food space, if you will. I would just love for you to tell people, like, how in the world did you get here, so that we can build on just what you've been doing.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's wonderful to talk to you, as it always is. So I first off want to say I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to run this foundation, really based on the dreams of the produce industry. So the foundation was started by the International Fresh Produce Association, who had foundations, and the industry is incredibly generous. But as we formed the new association, it was an opportunity to start a foundation from scratch. So over the last 3 years, we were working diligently, as you know, to take the hopes and dreams and the sentiments of the industry, the power of the products that they sell, and to create a foundation that actually would help to move society forward in a really positive way. So how I ended up running it is I was doing strategy at the association. I have a real passion for this topic area, and I just feel like I'm very blessed to be able to run the foundation.
Awesome. And tell me, give like a little mission nugget here of like what you do as the Foundation for Fresh Produce. Like what do you envision the world being like? Because I feel like that's been so interesting for me to learn that.
Sure. So the Foundation for Fresh Produce, its vision and mission is to grow a healthier world by changing the trajectory of human health. And we want to do that globally because people eat fruits and vegetables. The World Health Organization says we should have 400 grams a day. And we know that there are some drivers and barriers to being able for people to eat those fruits and vegetables. So that's the focus of the foundation, is to identify what's the work that people are already doing, where are I call them the holes in the Swiss cheese that need a little extra support or a little extra funding or some technical assistance from the industry to help drive positive change.
Amazing. Now, when we first met, which was on a board training for another one of my clients, which I loved, you, like you emailing me, I think within 10 minutes after that workshop, which was fun. When we first met, you had just launched, or the foundation had just launched, and you were setting, like, what does this look like? I mean, it was early on, but I think it was like, what's the phrase? Like building, the plane was already flying, and then we were kind of doing some building as well. Maybe share like maybe what brought you to say, like, oh wait, we do need help in funding and scaling, and just where you were when we started working together.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We were on the board meeting, and you were doing the board training, and it's one of those situations you had me at hello, because you're right. I have a marketing background, I have a business background, and so going into nonprofit was new when I went to the association, and certainly running the foundation. So there are those tropes that you think about of, okay, what is a foundation or nonprofits, how do they
Yeah.
work? How are you successful? And what really resonated is you had a very business mindset, if I'm allowed to say that in this context,
Absolutely.
with the clarity and the focus. And I think it was probably slide 4, if not slide 3, where you wrote, "You are not desperate." That was so powerful to me, not just from the organization, but also it was a mindset that
Hmm.
even though there was pressure to grow and pressure to establish what the vision is, and especially to fundraise, the fact that regardless of that, you are not desperate. It was so powerful, which is why right after I asked, can I write to Sherry? Is that appropriate? And I'm so grateful, because that's where we were in our journey. Is that, because I'm a marketer, I start with the big audacious goal of, I want a $50 million year over year organization. I have no idea how we're going to do that or what we're going to do, but that's what I believed we needed. And so then it's trying to figure out, how are we going to get there? And that's when we did the workshop. I felt like you start to lay out the framework of how we could potentially reach that goal.
I love it. Um, I remember early on, I loved the 50 million. I was like, oh, okay, well, what are we raising now? It's like, well, not too much. We're just starting.
Mm.
But if there was a little like doubt, it went away the minute I got to know you and was like, this lady has her foot on the gas pedal and is going to do this. And you've already proven that you can do this and will do this, maybe even quicker than we thought. One thing you said, I think, is about the desperation thing. I always think like, as a sector, as the nonprofit sector, and I made that shift from corporate into nonprofit too. And so I feel like I do bring that kind of business mindset into it. Maybe it's why we kind of click a little bit. It does, like if you Google anything, how to raise more money, it is very based in desperation and
Mm.
urgency and kind of you gotta catch them and hook them. And I do believe that approach creates a scarcity mindset and
Mm.
actually keeps organizations from growing. And so I love that you got that so early, because I just wrote this article that's floating around that's like, who wins in fundraising? Is it the tortoise or the hare? And
Mm.
I am all energy behind the tortoise. And even when I think it's felt slow as we get going, and even people have said like, "Oh, wait, you weren't asking me the first meeting or the first time," or like, "I'm surprised you haven't asked already." It's like, we're playing the long game, and that attracts funders. And so I feel like that is a huge part of your success already, because you just adapted that so quickly.
Well, it's a mindset shift, and when you go from, how do I raise X dollars for X thing? I mean, that's another big thing. I came in saying, we're not doing bake sales, if for nothing else, we don't have time. But it was also, if you're just even raising money for the thing as
Yeah,
opposed to for the mission, that was a huge part that you helped us to learn. And trying to figure out, how do we bridge that gap between the mission, which can feel very lofty, but also still have something that's
yeah,
tangible.
yes,
That's a lot of the work that we had to do, that I feel we were able to do.
yeah,
The other thing is, when you take that tortoise mindset, is it really opens up your curiosity. So again, as a marketer, you learn to listen and to be curious and to probe and to ask questions. And what I found is that what you think that made people may be interested in, actually it's not the case. So the more
yeah,
that you can genuinely learn and be open, it actually helps you to refine the work that you're doing, as well as to make that partnership.
yeah, yeah. Lauren, I think like what's also fun to watch, specifically with your organization, is there are a lot of people who are giving maybe through the association, sponsorships, projects, a little bit more transactional in nature, even though you had great relationships with a lot of the people. But like, as we think of, okay, gosh, we're a new foundation. We don't have tons of donors yet, but we have tons of people who have supported you as a leader or the movement for so long. Could you talk a little bit about your approach? Because you have no shortage of connections, of prospective donors or people that we're trying to migrate from, oh, they've done a sponsorship for 5 years and into a real mission aligned gift. Could you just talk about like how you're really calling your network to get behind you guys on this mission, and how you're prioritizing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's also exciting because while we have a lot of people, you also learn through this process that there's so many more people that you haven't even thought of
Yeah.
to connect with. So as you said, we're very fortunate to have members that are have always been, and I mean for decades, incredibly generous to not only the organizations but also for the good of the greater community.
Yeah.
You probably will not meet a group of people that are more passionate about the work that they do and the good that it does for the lives of others. And they talk about, betting the farm. You've heard that term. I mean, it
Mhm.
feels like that sentiment is real. There is real risk in what people do every day in terms of weather related issues or just crop or just the normal things that happen. So it amazes me the ingenuity that the industry has to be able to bring food to our tables,
Yeah.
and coupled with that generosity. So it's going through understanding who are the donors who have traditionally been very generous, and also early adopters.
Mm.
There's always groups of people that see the vision, even if there's something on the page, but it's it's more of a notion than an actual work. And those are the people that also help to refine what the focus of the organization should be. So I have a phrase I say, we don't need everybody helping us pick the napkins, but we certainly need people to help us to understand the broader landscape and where the foundation can be helpful.
Yeah.
So starting the conversations with those groups, and again, thinking of it as not this is the one conversation I'm going to have and that's it, but what are the I call them the green dots from your slide that we're going to have with each person. And people genuinely, especially in the industry, want to be helpful.
Yes.
People want to connect other people. People want to help to expand the knowledge and have you support and help others. And I think that's what has been so wonderful about being able to be the president of the Foundation for Fresh Produce is that while it's nonprofit, fundraising, you've got to ask people for money, all the things that can be that seem scary. Or I think you even have a slide about, don't be the used car
Yeah.
salesman. There are used car salesmen out there that are actually really helpful and really genuine if they're listening and they're helping.
Yes.
The other thing too is I started out in sales, so I was told my board chair, it's like I'm dusting off the old leather sales bag, and what I really liked about sales is it really was problem solving,
Yes.
which is really what you're trying to do, is to understand what is the problem, what is the opportunity. The other slide that you had that I really loved, I think maybe this was slide 8 in that training, was it's okay if what you have doesn't match with what somebody wants to do. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. You just recognize it and maybe connect them with somebody else and you move on. So
Yeah.
it was very freeing, your process.
Good. That's when I say, bless and release. Like,
Yes.
best of luck to you. How wonderful. That's why we have to chase donors all the time. If we are trying to force, the square peg into the round hole from a mission perspective.
Mhm.
Totally get it. Lauren, let's talk a little bit about your board, because I feel like your board, they are learners. To me, that's the number one characteristic of a board, for success in helping fundraising. But talk to me a little bit about how the boards come alongside you in all of this networking and fundraising.
We're very fortunate because each of the board members really believes in this mission of fruits and vegetables being able to change the trajectory of human health, which is the first step. The second thing is that we have members on the board who are from different aspects that all impact the work. So whether they're dietitians or PhDs, or they're in the industry as growers or distributors. But more importantly, they're not just talking about their slice or their lane. We call it like eating the whole elephant and seeing the whole elephant. And they really are curious about the different perspectives, but more importantly, they share with each other. And the more that we can connect the dots and give some commonality, we have a better chance of being able to ultimately move the needle.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Um, let's pivot to maybe asking a few questions just about the work together. What would you say? I mean, you talked about the mindset piece, which to me is sometimes 90% of it. But what particular aspects maybe do you feel like have made the most difference, maybe for the organization or for you or your team?
The piece of work that we did, if you want something that's tangible, was the case for support.
Mm,
Why that was so powerful, in case people don't know what the case for support was, it essentially is taking all of the hopes and dreams that are swirling in everybody's head and actually getting it down on a piece of paper in a logical format
yeah.
of why the organization exists, and to use very strong and powerful, clear language with the proof points, with the stats to support it. What was really powerful about that is one, it helped to organize and align everybody within the organization on what it is we're saying.
Yeah.
But when that project was over, you could look at us like, wow, we actually do have something here.
We're killing it. Yeah.
And all of a sudden it became incredibly substantive, and we use that religiously as the Bible for when we want to go and we want to communicate, when we want to be consistent in what we're saying and how we're saying it. So that was incredibly helpful. And you could say, well, what does that have to do with fundraising? Isn't that a marketing function? Well, no, because it ultimately, you're having conversations with people and you're putting collateral out in the world, and you have your website and you have your LinkedIn, which are all ways that we want to present ourselves in very professional and clear ways and be attractive for further conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, and flipping it into that donor's point of view, which has been, I think, a
Yes.
big shift from like the association to the foundation, of just shifting that, like, how do we shift from always, organization centric to actually, many people are helping this move forward from a donor perspective.
Mhm. And it's incredibly true. I mean, between the partnerships and the donors, and it really is. It takes this is really it takes a village
Yeah.
foundation for sure to get the work done. And even if you wanted to do it by yourself, if there was one organization, it wouldn't be
Yes.
successful.
Yeah.
So adopting that collectivistic approach
Yeah.
and mindset has been very important and powerful.
Love it. That means so much to me, talking to a
Oh,
marketer who I'm
oh.
like, oh my goodness, because that was such a fun piece to create. Talk to me a little bit about your team. I've loved getting to know the team that's on the calls with you, and playing different roles in all of this. How have they embraced the strategy and the plan, and this hours to dollars mentality? Like, it's been fun me watching it, but internally, how do you think they've embraced the strategy?
Well, they've first of all, I have incredible people that work with me. They have day jobs. Many of them have day jobs. Everybody doesn't report directly to me, but we have incredible rapport and contribution. Whether it's the people in our business development side who say we really need to do X, and then they see X come to fruition, it just starts to reinforce the power of the collective and that we
Yes.
are moving the needle forward. People again contributing, whether it's from a marketing side or a sales side or a nutrition side or a policy side, all that coming together to help to improve and sharpen not only how we do the work, but some of the work we do,
Yeah.
has been incredibly helpful. And we start to see that we really are making an impact and making a difference when I think the proof to that is when we have conversations outside of the industry with other potential partners. I think that we are refreshing
Hmm.
in terms of the fact that we take the best of the business acumen, but also the vantage point of truly being a global organization tied to an industry that's very well connected and networked. I think we're
Yes.
just finding out now how much value we actually can bring to people in ways that are much simpler
Hmm.
than we may have thought of in the past, which is incredibly exciting.
I love that. I think part of what I've also enjoyed, and I say big team because, like, I think maybe this is your marketing hat and fundraising, and business hat, of course, but like, the comms people have always been in the room, or even just as I get to know even more of your team members now here as we work together a year, who are now, we're starting to think like, well, how are we using LinkedIn, our case for support for LinkedIn to attract donors? Um, I, I'd love for you to maybe just talk about a little bit more about that intersection, um, of now where we are on the journey of, okay, how do we take what we've been doing and start attracting donors, or start, beating that drum on our mission, through our brand voice, because I feel like, oftentimes what I'm working on with people, is kind of, uh, it's like development's leading and like, oh yeah, we should integrate Marcom into this, where
Mm.
like, wait, that's got to happen so early because it is that is a segmented strategy on its own. And so as you are, posting consistently on LinkedIn and really growing your presence, I just love to hear like what that journey's been like for you.
Yeah, and it probably is just my orientation. As just from my career, marketing is at the tip of the spear, holding the spear, and at the back of the spear. It drives the strategy
Yeah.
all the way through the process. So even when there's a notion of an idea, having the marketer there and doing the research and bringing the concepts to life, and then bringing the actually doing the collateral as well as then measuring the performance and then going back to the beginning.
Yeah.
That's really what marketing is. So you didn't ask me, if there's one piece of advice, but for anybody out there that's doing oh, you know what, let's tell Bob in marketing now that we're at the end. I highly encourage you to have the marketing team up up front early, if for
Yeah.
nothing else, because it gives them the context and it's
Yes.
going to help you to move faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just by my nature, I tend to gather people along the way, even if they're not on my team. It's like, oh, come on, like there's a couple of people that like I've just kind of said, oh, I need you, and I really do, because they make the work better and they make
Yeah.
the work stronger. You always want people that can help you see what you can't see. They
Yes.
may not even be blind spots. You just don't even know to even go and look in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of work that, in a way, the more people, the better. But with clarity of who's doing what, we follow the RACI process, which is that responsible, accountable, and consulted and inform. And so being clear on, and that's what a lot of the work I'm doing on now. We've done the strategy, we have our case for support, we're on a flywheel with our fundraising conversations, and now programmatically getting very clear on who are the A's
Yeah.
and who are the support teams, because we're at the point now of scaling the work
Yes.
and weaponizing the case for support and really expanding on the impact that we have.
Love it. Let's talk about the flywheel. You are the master at getting the meeting, taking the meeting, holding the meeting, not being desperate in the meeting. Um, tell me what's working. Give me an example if you can of you owning this tortoise, and methodically leading donors to their best gift.
Yep, I think it's not being a slave to the slides. Nobody
Yes.
loves writing slides more than me. I love writing slides, and it's like my love language. But recognizing that you have the slides, you pull the ones that you think are available. The appendix is your friend. You can have it there. You can open it up. You don't have to go slide by slide, and really thinking of it as conversational
Yeah.
and listening to be nimble. Because there's one conversation I had. It was the first meeting that we've ever had, and we kind of went down a tangent, but it was an excellent tangent on the programmatic side of how we can learn from others that I hadn't thought about how to get support on the medical side. So really doing that active listening, the idea of following up and letting people know that you're following up, or just FYI that this is what I'm thinking, or asking a question. I think you have to make it, you have to think about it, but it doesn't have to be rote. And I don't know,
Yes.
maybe for me, maybe it makes so much sense, it's just second nature, that it's but if I wouldn't have thought about it, it may have happened kind of by happenstance. But now I'm actively thinking about what's the cadence that I'm doing for the following up.
Yeah.
And really it just comes down to tending to the relationship
Yes.
and nurturing the relationship. And you're just doing that at scale.
Yes. Yes. I taught a board workshop, I don't know, a week ago, and one of the board members, as I kind of walked through that cadence of like, actually, it's just like natural relationship building. It doesn't have to be the spin cycle of events and appeals and all the transactional things. And there's always somebody in a board workshop, and I was like, you're my guy. He's like, this is like what I've done for 40 years in sales, like a little bit of like, duh. I'm like, I know, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like we kind of like put our fundraising hat on and go into this other realm when if we let it be practical and actually kind of natural, it's just relationship building. And
Yes.
that's when you get the best gifts and authentic gifts, mission aligned gifts, which is what we
Yes.
want.
It was a big aha. You think, okay, do I need to put on my NPR voice to have
Right.
this conversation? He's like, no, just,
No.
just be yourself. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. As we wrap up, Lauren, is there any example you could give us of like you taking that long journey and building that relationship and having success?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I mean, I recognized it was like, watching paint dry for the 2 or 3 years as I was not on, I wasn't even the tortoise. I don't know, like the dinosaur that was probably half petrified. It probably seemed like it was going so slowly, but it really helped to pay off because I had the vision part, but I just needed that time to get that structure and making
Yeah.
sure it made sense so we can grow into the house and grow instead of just having a bunch of furniture and nothing matched.
Yeah.
It helps with the conversations when we're talking to people who potentially want to support the organization for the work we want to do because their ambition was so big.
Mm.
And the biggest opportunity was having an organization whose shoulders were big enough to actually help to deliver on the desire of the industry. So really taking the dream that has been there for 40, 50 years and bringing it to reality. We've had some great early success. There are people that, like you said, we've had donors to the organization for decades. So it wasn't a question of if they would give. I think that the other side of that, not being desperate, is really think that you've taught us is what do you really need?
Mm.
Not what are you going to do with what you get, but what do you really need? And not being afraid to say that this is what we need. We need this. And to my surprise, people are willing to bump up more than they have in the past.
Yeah.
We had one donor who was always very generous, and he literally 10x his gift.
Amazing.
Which
Amazing.
is and we're just getting started.
Yeah. I love those emails from you, by the way.
They're fun to send.
Oh my gosh. I always know because of your subject line. That's the marketing in you. I'm like, oh, this one I'm opening first. Oh my goodness. Any other surprises that came from our work, Lauren?
I think the cross functionality was a surprise. Usually we're on the call. It's like, like you say, well, let's bring this person in or let's bring that person in because it is interconnected. It's not like the fundraising silo.
Yes.
It is the whole piece of the organization is tied into the work that we're doing. So I view you as really a key player and a central part. The other thing is we write internally, okay, what would SQT do? We channel our Sherry Quam Taylor, when we're doing our work and having our conversations. And so I think what's been really refreshing is how impactful you've been from the organizational culture that I'm building, not just helping us with our fundraising alone.
Thank you. That means a lot. Lauren, how can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn, Lauren M. Scott. You can also send me an email, lscott@freshproduce.com.
Awesome. I appreciate your time, and you and your whole team have just been super fun for me to work with. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you.